Question number 5 asks us, determine whether the data collected represent a population or a sample. We need to remember that a population is everybody we would like to study if we could. The sample is the people we actually do study in order to draw conclusions about the larger population when the population is so big it would be unmanageable to study them all. First situation says a nurse records the age of every patient in the waiting room. In this case, this represents a population. It says every patient in the waiting room. So if we're looking to find the average age in the waiting room, we could have just looked at 10 people, found what those 10 people's average age was, and used that as an estimate. Instead, here we looked at every patient. Since we're looking at every patient, it counts as a population. A researcher uses 40 sunflowers to estimate the growth rate for his sunflower field. In this case, the 40 sunflowers aren't all the sunflowers he could study. He could study all the sunflowers in his fields, which might be hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. Instead, he chooses these 40 and estimates from those 40 the growth rate for the entire field. In this situation, the 40 represent a sample. 100 Americans are asked their opinion on when the lockdown should end. Here, we're assuming that these 100 Americans are representing the opinions of America as a whole, when we can't really ask everybody in America. So in this case, again, these 100 Americans are a smaller part of the larger population we're trying to study. That's why this would be a sample. Question 6 tells me a data set that gives the net worth of all current billionaires is what we're going to be discussing. First thing it asks is the data set a population or sample? Since it says all current billionaires, it includes everybody who we could like to study within the billionaire class. For that reason, it's a population. What is the variable being measured? The variable being measured is net worth. How much money do they have? What is the experimental unit? The experimental unit is where I get one piece of information. I find out the net worth of one billionaire. It'd be fine if you said one person. I'm just being specific. One billionaire gives me their net worth. Question 7 tells me that a restaurant wants to evaluate how their customers would rate a recent visit. They ask recent customers to rate their experience with a whole number 1 to 5. First question is, what variable is being measured? So the variable that's being measured is customer rating. What type of variable is it? Well, here it's a whole number, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. That means that it does have a naturally occurring numerical scale. If somebody rates the restaurant a 1, that means they had a worse time than somebody who rates it a 2. So in this case, it would be a quantitative variable. Because it's only whole numbers that they're allowed to do, we're not getting anybody rating it a 3.2. Specifically, the type of quantitative variable that it is a discrete quantitative variable. Part C asks me, what's the experimental unit? Where do I get one piece of information? I get it from one customer. What is the population of interest? So they want to evaluate how their customers would rate a recent visit. So their population is really customers of the restaurant.